can you get a decent treadmill for your home gym for $300? That's what I intend to find out. In this video, I'm going to review the Merach T-12. It sounds like a robot from a futuristic sci-fi movie, but it's not. It's just this foldable incline treadmill that has a bunch of different programs you can run on it, and it hooks up to the Merach app. And yes, it might look a little deceiving if you go to their website. The retail price is $400 to $500, but right now it's on sale for $400 for Black Friday, and code VINTAGE25, VINTAGE25 will save you 25%. I'm doing some loose math here, but 25% off $400 is about $300. So that's where we start. Is this worth your money? Because that's what you want to think about when you're setting up your home gym. You only have so much money to spend on a home gym. Is it worth putting it into this treadmill? Or is this going to give you more hassle than good? Shipping and packaging was excellent. It came in one piece, and it came almost in one piece. It was about 90% assembled. That was nice to find out. The box was heavy, so use two people. Once I got it out of the box, it's just a couple of bolts and screws that you need to use to put this together. The hardware comes clearly assembled by step. That's nice. And the directions in the owner's manual were pretty clear. No problems there. But I did have one step that was a little tough to work through. So putting together this rear guard on step number 5, the screw just drops right down in there. It doesn't screw in. So either the hole that they've drilled is too large of a diameter, or the screw is not large enough, whichever one you want to look at it. But Merach needs to address this. With that said, these were so tight fitting that they never once came loose or came off of the machine. And you'll see in a moment how I actually kick them during certain uses, and they're still there. They're still on the machine. So really not a big issue, but something to look into for Merach. Once assembled, everything was pretty intuitive. This is 54 inches by 28 inches wide. When it comes to operating it, it is a plug-in machine. Throughout most of my usage of the T-12, I had it over in this corner behind me. That gave me maximum space in my home gym. I brought it out here to show it to you a little better, and it was easy to bring it out here and move it around the gym because it has wheels and it folds up. Instead of being 54 inches by 28 inches, you cut that length in half-ish, and it's about 26 inches. And then the wheels, you just tip it, and you can roll it around your home gym wherever you might like to. In terms of lowering it back down, there's a kickstand. You kick the top portion, and then it'll start to lower. It does take a little time to lower, so keep that in mind in terms of usage, that this is a nice time to stretch and warm up a little bit. While we're waiting on it, I'm going to tell you about some of the features up here. The screen is adjustable, so you can move it up and down. And this is a nice large platform up here that I could put my computer on. I could do a little work if I was walking. I could put a device up here if I wanted. There's also a ledge to put a device. You can put your phone on the ledge. The panel is, like I said, very easy to figure out. So I'll walk through that in just a second. Now that we're all the way down, let me point out that the power button is down below. I like that the power button's not up here, that it's down below, because it makes me feel a little safer with my children, that if they wander into the gym, it's going to be a little tougher for them to figure out how to turn this on. Once I turn on the machine, then some of the features that I have are that the sturdy handrails out here, they have a heart rate monitor, and they have a speed adjustment that you can use with your thumb, and over here an incline adjustment on this rail that you can use. The digital monitor gives you 4 different things. You can walk through the heart rate, the mileage, the calories burned, and the speed that you're going. It cycles through those one after another, which you kind of got to wait around for the one you're looking for to come back up. I wish that wasn't the case, but if you've ever run on a treadmill, you know that that happens quite often. When it comes to the emergency shutoff, it's a clip, pretty standard. You pull this out and you can hear it beeping. It's going to auto shut off. So that's a pretty standard but nice safety feature here, especially for a home gym owner that's using this by themselves a lot of times. You don't want your family finding you laying on the floor with the treadmill running on top of you. As far as the running of it, it's a 2.5 horsepower motor, and that gets up to 7.5 miles per hour. Here's a clip of me running at 7.5 miles per hour. It's not just important to see that, that's how fast you're going. I mean, I'm 6 foot tall, 200 pounds. That's a pretty fast clip. I mean, unless you're doing one of the programs on here that speeds up and down, I'm not going to be running any long distances at that speed. When it comes to the sound of it, the noise of it, it's a relatively quiet machine. There was a little bit of a noise, so let me turn it on here and you'll see what I mean. That little bit of like a coffee grinder sound, I'm not sure what that is exactly. However, I will say that the owner's manual for the T-12 does show you how to adjust the belt. I briefly considered tinkering around with that, but then once I saw that it was pretty minimal, like once you get the speed up, it really kind of blends in. It wasn't a big deal. So I didn't adjust the belt at all, but you can adjust the belt if you so choose. The other thing to consider in terms of adjusting a belt would be, is the belt tight enough? Is there any slippage? That's right, slippage. When you're buying a treadmill, when you're using a treadmill, you don't want the belt slipping on the rollers. I didn't experience any slippage on here, with the exception of one scenario. Quick acceleration. So if I go 1 mile at a time through the speeds, no problem. No slippage, everything is intact, everything's great. If I go 2 miles per hour, like the presets on here are 1, 3, 5, if I go from 1 to 3 or 3 to 5, no problem. But if I smash the 5 miles per hour right away while I'm on it and I'm running as it accelerates as fast as it can, then I did feel a little bit of slippage on the rollers. Again, I could adjust that some and tinker around with that, but I'll be honest, I'm not running that fast that often. I normally chug along at about 4 miles, 4.5 miles per hour for 20, 30 minutes. That's what I'm up to on the treadmill throughout the winter here in Pittsburgh, so I just left it alone. Overall, I think that's a pretty good quality in terms of a $300 treadmill to only slip at quick accelerations. As far as the incline, it has the same preset style that you have a 3, 6, and 9 degree incline. You can go higher up to 15 degrees, but it's nice to have these preset buttons where I can just click it at 3, I can click it at 6. However, that is where I ran into a little bit of a problem as I got used to running on an incline. At the steepest incline, the first time I tried it, and then lower inclines, it was just catching me and catching me. It took me a second to realize what was happening. I was drifting back, and then my shoe was catching this back edge here. You can see where it chewed up my shoes. Same spot on both of the shoes, right here. As my foot was coming down, I was catching this back corner with my shoes. Although I put some of the blame on myself, I do think there's an easy fix for Merach. Just take that back corner of that protection guard and make it an angle instead of a corner, and then no one's going to catch their shoes. As far as that's concerned, it didn't happen again once I got used to it and I wasn't drifting back as far. But that brings us to something that's really important to consider, which is the running pad size. Because depending on your preferences and depending on how much you use your treadmill, you might want to buy something that's bigger than this one. So the running pad is 42.5 by 16.5 inches. Now, you know, you're watching a video, how big is that? Well, it's much smaller than what I was used to in a commercial gym. But with that said, in my home gym, you're giving up real estate in your home gym the larger of a machine you get. So there's that fine balance between feeling comfortable on something that you're using and not taking up much space in your home gym. I think this hits the sweet spot of that balance. It did feel a little smaller at first in terms of usage because I just wasn't used to that, but it didn't take long. I mean, 2 or 3 times using this and it was fine. Every once in a while I'd hit the sides and it's not like I fell and hurt myself or anything. It's just a slight little like whoopsie daisy, stay in the middle. And like I said, especially on an incline, it took me a little while to get used to it, but it would make kind of a squeaking sound if I hit the back roller while I was running, and it was a little like alarm to me, like, uh-oh, better get back up here. So overall, a little smaller, get used to it, but I think it's a great size for a home gym. Measuring calories is kind of goofy. The machine doesn't know my weight, it doesn't know my height, it doesn't know anything about me. So the calories, I just kind of wipe that to the side. I don't pay attention to that. They probably shouldn't even include that. That goes for any treadmill. As far as the speed and the distance, that was pretty accurate, but then the heart rate monitor wasn't accurate. No matter what I did, it tended to be in the 70s. So I'm wearing this cheap watch from Amazon. If you want to see a review of this, it's 25 bucks. Drop a comment and let me know. I bought it primarily to measure my steps and to measure my heart rate. And as I compared the heart rate on the heart rate monitor of the T-12 to my watch, things were very different. So let me show you. If I kick this up and I hit start, it's going to count down like usual. And then I'm going to hit 3 to start and it'll get me moving. Now I can adjust the speed over here on the handrail, which is nice. So I'm going to kick it up to 4. And as I run on this, you can get a sense of how loud it is, how noisy it is. And we'll go a little faster. And right now, even just after these seconds, I'm sure my heart's up some, so I'm going to measure the heart rate. And holding my hands on here, as it instructs in the owner's manual, it says my heart rate is 75. If I go to my watch and I measure my heart rate, it says my heart rate is 113. So, even as my heart rate comes down, 103. See if it'll measure it again for me. No, it's paused, it won't. No, it will, look at that. 75. So something is off. Weight capacity is 300 pounds. I got pretty close to that because I weigh 200 pounds and then I would go rucking and I throw on a 40 or 50 pound rucksack. So that gets me up to about 250 pounds. And even when I was rucking on here, I didn't experience anything that was malfunctioning. I did some incline, I did it flat, I went for long distance. As far as long distance, the owner's manual said that this could run for an hour and a half, and at that point you'd have to give the machine a break of 10 minutes. So that's a limiting factor too, to keep in mind that if you're a marathon runner and you want to do some like really long runs, you want to go 2, 3, 4 hours on the machine, this might not be the machine for you. However, before we get into who this is best for, let's get into this scandalous history. So the treadmill was used as a punishment. Not just in modern times, but the monotony of it was used as a punishment when it was invented way back in England in, I don't know what year, let me check. Way back in the 1800s, William Cubitt invented the tread wheel to be used in prisons. It was a dual purpose type of invention. It was to punish the person with the monotony of day-long walking on this treadmill, which, by the way, has a little historical connection to this one because it was at an incline on a large wheel, a lot of them. But the other purpose was that it actually would grind grain and other things, hence the mill. So treadmill, if you've ever wondered why it's called a treadmill, that's why, even though we're not grinding any grain anymore. The monotony of it can still be there, which is why it's nice to have a screen and be able to put something on. And the noise of this one is so low that I can put on Saturday Night Live and I don't even need headphones and I could watch it while running. But back in the 1800s, I cannot imagine how grueling this was to spend your whole day in prison walking on a tread wheel. Various exercise machines had been around for years, but in 1939, John Richards invents basically a treadmill for dogs. At the time, in the early 1900s, treadmills were not common in gyms, but this idea, the one for dogs, combined with an aerobics movement that took place after Cooper's popular aerobic book was published, combines to form the invention of the modern treadmill. A young runner named Bill Staub wants to run an 8-minute mile in the 1960s, and he decides he needs to be able to run indoors and train indoors as well as outdoors. He invents the modern treadmill in the early 1960s, and that's called the Pacemaster. The Pacemaster retailed in the 1960s for $399. So, oddly enough, another historical connection, the T-12 is currently retailing for $400, about the same amount as in the 1960s, the very first modern treadmill. And you can save 25% off this version with code VintageWeightsPGH. Back to the history. Bill Staub names his company Aerobics Incorporated, giving some credit to Cooper in his book on aerobics, and the rest is what you probably know, that companies all around the world start making their own treadmills, and here we are with Merach making this one. When it comes down to it, I've already mentioned a couple different use cases that just aren't good for this. If you're a serious marathon runner and you need to be able to run for a couple hours on your treadmill, an hour and a half max isn't going to work for you. Another use case would be if you are heavily into HIIT training, maybe the slippage on fast acceleration, and maybe the lack of being able to interpret the programs isn't going to work too well for you, but you might like the Merach app. So there's a balance there. Are there some downsides? Absolutely. That's why this is a review and not a commercial. So you better wear some old shoes while you get used to running on this. Otherwise, this back piece is going to catch you and chew up your shoes, and you might not like that. Once you get used to it, you'll be fine. The heart rate monitor doesn't really monitor much. I don't know what it's monitoring, but whatever it's monitoring has a very consistent, like 70s heart rate. As far as the size of the pad, it's a little smaller, but that's good for home gyms. With all those downsides considered, I still feel confident that this is the best for a home gym owner at a budget price of only $300. This folding style is really nice for a home gym. I love being able to move this around. Whenever I was doing a grip concentrated workout, I just wheeled it to the other side of the gym. For this video, I just brought it out for you to see. It's really nice to fold it up as well. It might not seem like this is too compact, but if you've been in a home gym long enough, you'll know that the extra square footage here, the extra 3x2 that you're saving is valuable. In my case, I have an exterior door here, so I was able to lower this down and go for a run, but then I would just fold it up and I could go in and out of my gym to go outside and play with my kids. A home gym owner that wants a space-saving treadmill for their very average life use case, that's a home run. I'm that kind of guy. My main fitness goals have to do with lifting weights. I do cardio just to round things out and stay healthy and be able to lift my grandkids up someday. If you fall into that category where you're just looking for like a baseline cardio piece of equipment, this is a steal of a deal. $300 for a brand new treadmill that does incline and comes with a 1-year warranty, plus a little deep cut from the owner's manual that you might not notice. I want to point out, there's an extended warranty that you can add on another 12 months by just contacting and registering your piece of equipment. So make sure you do that. So that's where I do think this will last longer than a year. It has done very well in my gym for rucking, for running, for doing different programs. So for most home gym owners, I think this is your best buy. I hope this video was helpful for you. I hope you learned a little bit about the scandalous history of the treadmill. Maybe you can get one for your dog. I don't know. This isn't approved for dogs though. Just side note. Your dog's claws might tear up the pad. If you do decide to purchase the Merach T-12 or any other Merach piece of equipment, use code VintageWeightsPGH, Vintage25 to save 25% off. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe, like, comment, all that happy stuff. It really helps the channel. But most importantly, I hope you get the piece of equipment that's best for you.